Oh, I love
Hey.
that intro.
Yeah, well, everybody, welcome to the EV World News broadcast. And I'm here with Bill Moore, the founder of EV World. How's it going today, Bill?
It's going fine. I should get back further so my head is the same size as yours.
If you remember the movie Tootsie, they once asked, it's like, can you pull the camera back a little bit to make her, or how far can you pull the camera back to make her look better? And they said, how about Toledo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how about Toledo? Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
It's
Carry
always,
Lake Gauze lens.
yeah, I look better the further the camera is away. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, our first story today, we're going to talk about the Chinese EV graveyard and why this is misinformation. Do you want to share your screen for us, Bill?
Yeah, let me pop over to there. Well, now when I do that, hold on, I got to go back. I got to get up to speed on doing this thing. To share the screen there's invite guests, add source.
Right to the right of your camera, your where you can mute where you can turn your camera on and off. There's a
Yep,
little
I
square
got
with
it.
an arrow
I'll
in it. Got
share.
it.
Yeah.
By the way, it's the same image on both Zoom and Google Meets too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the story. The information that was going around. Somebody did a video and said this is just, this is a graveyard of electric cars. Shows you they aren't selling, in China, and they're just becoming, an environmental disaster. This was probably posted after they showed similar photos of a mountain of electric assist bicycles that were piled up. And of course, the story was that this is EV, fantasy. EVs will never take off, and they're not selling in China. And here's proof.
well,
Uh,
I'll tell you a little bit of what I've dug into this particular situation too, because I was kind of curious. And I told you that I have somebody who's looking at starting a EV car sharing program in the UK.
right,
And somebody had already tried this in China. Now, the problem in China is there's no place to park cars.
right.
And there's a whole lot of different issues you have with the Chinese economy, and they're very used to using mass transit,
Yep.
much more so than Americans or the British or anybody like that, and on a completely different scale than what we're used to. And my understanding is a very large percentage of these cars were owned or are owned by an EV
Cars.
ride sharing company
Yep.
or car sharing company. And so there are a fair amount of cars here that at some point, there's nothing wrong with the cars. They could be repurposed and sold, but somebody does own these and they're not using them.
Yeah, because for obviously multitude of reasons, but the whole sort. You're right. When you if all you got to do, I have actually sat in traffic jams in Beijing, and the traffic in Beijing is a mess. And this was, wow, 20 years ago, so I can't imagine what it's like now. So the idea, it has value as long as it sort of meets what the market demands are and the local traffic conditions are. In China's case here, there was less of a need for this car sharing concept as time progressed along, because I think the article here in the points out that it's now cheaper to buy a brand new electric car in China. And by the way, so far this year, they've sold 1.36 million electric cars in China, 1.36 million. So it's cheaper to buy an electric car in China than it is to take and refurbish these and try to resell them. So they sit there. It's a shame, but it's kind of the results of capitalism sometimes gone a little crazy. So
Nice, nice. Well, it is a lot of cars in the picture, but I mean, you could probably, if you went and you took a look at Lucid from the air, there's probably that many cars sitting outside of the Lucid plant
oh
here in the
yeah,
United States. So it's not that staggering of an amount of vehicles that just really, you know, it seems odd just because of what they are and where they're at.
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
anyways, China's not building those 1 point something million electric vehicles and just sticking them out in the fields. They
No,
are the largest adopter, and this isn't Chinese propaganda they're trying to spread. China's, what is it? I think they're like 40% of the global EV market. I mean, it's huge how much
well, I think it's actually closer to 60.
60% of the global EV market.
60% of the global market.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge, staggering amount that they have adopted. And while they are the world's worst industrial polluter, they really are. The citizens are really trying to adapt and do their part. One of my big things is I hate smog and I hate emissions. Just the smell, and I'm really big on natural health and stuff like that. I can't imagine living in Shanghai or Beijing with the amount of smog and all that. And during COVID, a lot of that went away. They actually got a little bit better. A lot of cities around the world saw a
Yeah.
huge reduction in that, and that was you know kind of interesting to
My
see. But
last, yeah, my last time in Beijing, they opened the doors of the airplane and I stood there and I saw this orange air that I was going to have to breathe for the next week. And thought real hard about, do I really want to be here? And that was 20 years ago. So I'm hoping with the growth of, they've been doing incredible work bringing out, switching over to renewables, and to some degree eliminating their coal plants, but that's still a problematic area for them, which will bring us back, interestingly enough, to our last story, which will be on the Montana lawsuit, and where Montana's coal goes. But anyway, we'll talk about that at that
all
point.
right,
But
well,
the air 20 years ago was bad, and I don't think it's gotten a lot better. So
so for our next story today, we're going to talk a little bit. Comes to us from Clean Technica. From cradle to grave, electric vehicles have fewer greenhouse gas emissions than gas vehicles. Now, when I talk to a lot of people are constantly telling me, yeah, but the EVs, they're doing all this mining. It's really bad for the environment. This is kind of my own take. So, as you know, I do a lot of consulting and things in the private equity space. I see a lot of things that are being offered out there. And I had somebody just last week, we're talking about US manufacturing of batteries, probably on an Indian reservation, indigenous, and with the indigenous tribes. And what would be going on is they're going to be using not rare earth materials. So no lithium, no cobalt, solid state batteries, more energy for the size of the battery. It's going to give a little more power and range to the vehicle. It's going to not have the issues with how do we recycle these electric batteries. They're not going to catch on fire like the lithium batteries. So a lot of these things that I see people pointing out that's so wrong with the EV market usually comes back to the fact that we're buying lithium from China. Okay, in some way, it's like lithium's the problem. We're polluting in China, or we're trying to get those rare earth minerals. But I see so much information that comes to me about battery tech, people I'm talking to daily that are showing me these newer technologies that are coming down. And, I look at this, in this case, it's talking about a small gas SUV in 2020, 429 grams of carbon dioxide per mile. Okay, so that's about 429 grams. That's about a pound, isn't it? I think if you
I don't
convert it into freedom units, um, I don't know how many football fields that would be, but I think it's about a pound of carbon. Anyways, the same size EV had
I
48%
will look it
fewer
up. I have a
emissions.
little converter here handy,
All right.
and I'll tell you exactly. So we want to go to weight, and we want to do. You want ounces or pounds? Which do you want?
We can do either. I'd imagine that's at 429 grams is about 8 ounces, I would assume.
429 grams, was it?
Yes. Oh, that should be about 16 ounces. Should be about
Yeah,
16
so that's
ounces.
0.9. Well, yeah, it's 0.94 pounds.
There
So
you
it's
go.
about 1 pound. Yeah.
That's pretty easy. A pound of carbon per mile for a small gasoline SUV. I don't know what a small SUV is. Do we have those in the United States? I don't know.
Well, Equinox and some of those are considered small as opposed to uh,
Suburbans.
something like a Suburban, yeah, or that class,
I talked
quarter
about that.
store and so on.
I told you I talked a little bit a couple days ago about the new Cadillac that's coming out next year.
Yep,
That's for the low price, entry price of 130 grand.
thirty thousand
It's got
dollars. Yeah,
yeah, but it's got 750 horsepower and 450-mile range, all EV, and it looks incredible. And it's not the same chassis as the Hummer.
yeah,
So
it's
they've been
it's
it,
Ultim chassis. Yeah,
yeah, they call it it's a clean slate vehicle. It's going
yeah,
to be complete redesign on its own platform, which is quite unique. But back to this story here, considering everything from raw material extraction to vehicle scrappage to provide a holistic view of the sustainability of different vehicle and fuel tech. Now,
and there's the
here,
teller right there, that graph.
yeah, green is fuel, yellow is battery, blue is the vehicle besides the battery. Well, generally, vehicles are fairly recyclable outside of, tires, things like
Try
that.
recycling the exhaust of your car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. The
Yeah,
actual emissions, yes, I
yeah,
get that. But anyways, the analysis includes emissions related to raw materials, fuel production and transport, vehicle manufacturing use, vehicle end of life, but does not consider supporting infrastructure like refineries, end of life, or roads and bridges. Well, we're going to still have roads and bridges regardless of what type of cars
well, yeah.
we're driving. But anyways,
Unless we come up with anti-gravity, um, that kind of wild sci-fi technology. I mean, people are working on, flying cars.
mhm,
But
we already have them. We've had
oh,
flying cars since World War II. They call them helicopters.
yeah, well, a little bit different there, but anyway, what's interesting here is the conclusion they reach is that I'm sorry, an electric vehicle over the life of the operation of the vehicle, the cradle to grave of the vehicle, uses 48% less energy intensive than a standard small gasoline powered SUV. 48%, almost half.
Well, that's a significant improvement, and it's only going to keep getting better. Like, because everybody's big concern is the batteries, and like I said, I'm seeing stuff. In fact, when I was talking to this one group last week, they were saying that not only do they not need the cobalt and the lithium for the batteries, they don't even have to mine anything. There's enough of the ingredients for these newer solid state batteries that are already mined. They could be recycled. They're out sitting in storage, different places. Nothing special has to happen to actually start building the
Yeah.
batteries
Yeah.
and equipping them around the country. And I thought that was pretty neat because that's going to be here in the United States. It's going to be sourced in the United States. We're not going to be dependent. That's a lot of the big arguments about everything's coming from China.
No.
Why do we need all that? It's going to solve a whole lot of those issues that where people have these, just don't want anything to do with electric.
Well,
And eventually we're going to have Mike Herzog on here to talk a little bit about how
right.
we're beefing up the grid and, doing things like that that'll help, because people have so many issues that and when I talk to friends that they don't get some of this. And it's like, but you and I see where all these things are being checked, the boxes are being checked off
Yeah,
to fix a lot
the
of these
boxes are
things.
being checked, definitely. Yeah, they're definitely being checked.
Yeah. So Bill, let's talk about Montana now. Do you want to go
Yeah,
ahead and
Montana. What an absolute. Have you ever been to Montana, driven through?
oh God, yes.
Yeah, my
Lots of
wife
them.
is actually from just the other side of the mountain. She's from the northern Idaho Panhandle, so that's country we've been to on many occasions, and we love that area. And she's got family that lives in Moscow, and um, so what happened in Montana is that a group of representing the young people of Montana brought a lawsuit against the state of Montana, claiming that the state was not protecting their health and well-being, as is required by the state constitution. And in a what can only be regarded as really a landmark case, the courts agreed with them and said, Montana, you are not protecting the health and the future and the well-being of your citizens, your future citizens, your youth, your families, by not making a rigorous effort to look at the environmental impact of the energy programs or the energy projects that you as a state are approving. Montana exports 40 million metric tons of coal a year. They're I think the number 5 or number 6 coal producing state. Number 1 being Wyoming, you're our neighbor to the west of us. But then you've got Montana with these huge, in fact, that's believed they have the largest reserves of mineable coal in the United States. And these kids have argued, or their representatives, legal representatives, argued that all you're doing is encouraging the global warming by allowing these projects to take place, and that is going to curtail that's going to curtail our futures. It's going to hinder our futures. The individual for which the lawsuit was named helped bring it about because of the impact of climate change on her family's ranch. And that, from all I've read here now regarding this story, is that this is going to have a profound ripple effect through the rest of the country. These are not the only lawsuits. There's beginning to be many of these kinds of lawsuits filed globally. There are something like 2,200 similar lawsuits that have either been filed or been settled, and about half of those have been ruled in favor of the plaintiff in their efforts to begin to get corporations to start being responsible in their role in causing global warming.
Can you tell me about what the judge? You say the judge ruled in favor, but tell me exactly what they.
So the state now. So what happens? I think of the consequences. And now, bear in mind, I am not an attorney. Okay, I'm a layman looking at this. So, but what I understand is that the state now is required, or will be required. This apparently would be the outcome of this, would be required to take into consideration the environmental impact of any future energy projects that are proposed to the state, which essentially would be anybody wanting to go in there and open up a new coal mine, or drill another oil well, or pull methane gas out of the reserves that the state has. And I would assume it would probably apply the same thing, to be fair here, to any wind turbine, wind farm projects that they might want to put up and things like that. But they're just trying to level the playing field here, so that the consequences of these projects are now taken into consideration before they get approved. So,
Well, good. It's definitely good news. Everybody, I want to remind everyone to hit the bell and get
you
more.
suddenly got cut off.
Oh yeah. When I play that, it's silent. It's kind of funny. Yeah. Getting used to these fancy tools here. It's you know,
I know, I
it's
know. Oh, we'll get there. We'll be pros before long.
oh, I know. I can't believe how much better I've gotten at some of this in just a month of doing these, and it's really interesting because I think this is
Now,
episode
we're
number
not
20 or
live anymore,
21.
right?
We still are live. We still are
Oh,
live.
we still are
And I'm
live.
going to go,
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and
Right.
end the show for today. Thanks for being on here today.